my fellow geeks and freaks. Welcome, welcome. This is my first official book bowl video. I'm not including the intro, obviously. I'm glad you could take the time out of your day to watch this video and sit with me as I do my first official review. And I rant. I can promise you, I will rant. So as you guys may have seen in the previous video, I pulled out a couple titles and I prepared to read them. I had pulled out the Morally Gray Billionaire series by Steele and The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. Now, I have read 3 books already, but I just wasn't prepared to record because I needed a minute. I needed a minute to stay away from this series, to stay away from this review that'll bring me right back into the book I had to read. So I have to say, I was excited when I first pulled out the series. I'd never read it, I will admit, if I'd read a series when I pull it out. But it was my first pull for this book bowl, and I figured it could be a great start, something I could look forward to, something I could be excited about. But no, that's not what happened. This series is testing every ounce of my patience, every ounce of my willpower to complete it. When I saw that it was Morally Gray Billionaires, as the box set stated, I thought, what could go wrong? Morally gray men, rich men, love story, smut. It lays out the perfect book, but it failed me. From how I see it, a smutty book can have a horrible story and great spice and be a good book. It can have mediocre spice, an amazing plot, and be a good book. But it cannot have horrible spice, horrible plot, and still be good. It's not possible. It's just not. And that's what I got here. I've been bamboozled. I've been tried. I never considered throwing my Kindle at the wall before. Not actually, I wouldn't hurt my baby. But I was close. I was close to losing my mind. I still am close to losing my mind. I have about 5 more books in this series, guys. There's 7, okay? 5 more. Regardless, I went into this optimistic, intrigued, excited, the whole 9. The first book in the series is called The Proposal. I'm going to warn you guys now, in case you somehow want to read this book by the time I'm done. There might be spoilers in here. There's just some things I can't leave out because it's part of my rant. It really is. I'm not judging you if you want to read these books. I'm not judging you if you like these books. This is just my personal opinion, and I'm just giving it to you. So the premise of The Proposal, this wedding planner ruins the wedding she's planning, and the groom makes an arrangement for them to get married. That's basically it. That's all you really have to know. And you know what? Arranged marriages, I'm for it. I really am. I'm starting to question my decisions in doing this book bowl, or at least putting some of the books, because God knows what I'm going to get into now. I did read the summary before reading the book. Just like as I pulled it out, I just looked up the series. I don't think I'm going to do that for every book. I think it might excite me more if I don't know what I'm getting into. And maybe, I won't get my hopes up to be disappointed. I don't know if I could do it anymore, guys. Anyway, upon reading the summary, I was ready to dive in. I did not see what could go wrong. Boy, have I learned. So here I am, excited, naive me, ready to jump into my Kindle and read this book, only to find a few pages in that I made a mistake. It wasn't long before I wished I'd never even seen this title to put into my bowl. A few pages in and I wasn't immediately dragged into the story, which can sometimes happen. There are a few books I've read where I feel like I can't get that pull until later on. But I wasn't the biggest fan of the story. The characters babble a lot, which doesn't always bother me. I mean, hey, I babble a lot, so, relating there. But I feel like there was no substance. It was just mindless babble. Oh, maybe I should like it. Anyway, in a way, babbling from a character can be charming because it makes them seem more real, because you're seeing what's going on in their mind as they're thinking. I didn't get that. I really didn't. This was just nonsensical. If that's a word, I don't even know. My brain has rotted from this book. Our main female character, her name's Isla. She works as a wedding planner, and she's planning like the biggest wedding of her career. And this was gonna boost her wedding business and send it soaring, sky high. Make her popular and rich, I guess. The problem is that she hates the groom. And I guess that's going to be an issue because she doesn't know how to separate personal and professional. Because she befriends the bride. I mean, Listen, not everyone's very professional. Some people befriend clients, I guess. I don't judge, I really don't care, to be honest. But I care in this case because when you're saying that this wedding is gonna skyrocket your career, wouldn't you make sure not to screw that up? I guess her brain cells went out the window. There's a part in the beginning where she acts odd about these vitamins she's taking, which made me feel like she might have like anxiety or some type of like health issue, but they didn't further elaborate on it, so I tried to let it go. Maybe it was just some random drop in. I didn't think too much about it. As I stated, a little weird that she befriended her client, especially when this was the biggest job of her career. But I felt like maybe the author did that because it would make her more relatable. She's human, right? We don't always make the best decisions. We don't always think clearly or think about potential consequences. Fine. Guys, I tried. I tried really hard to just see the bright side of every little thing that aggravated me. And then, the bride's name is Lila. So being friends with Lila led her to admitting that she doesn't think she should get married to the groom. She put her entire business in jeopardy, and she potentially ruined a happy couple's lives. It just feels like too many lines are being crossed in the first few pages of this book. Now, our main character, Liam, hates her. Kind of just starts off with this visceral hatred towards each other. I don't know. I don't care anymore. He's angry that she ruined his chance at getting his inheritance by getting married, so he forces her to marry him for that inheritance. Now, I'm still giving the story a chance by this point. Yeah, big mistake. But fine. It's in his inheritance that he has to get married. I can see why she agreed to marry him because he did threaten her. You ruined my wedding. So, okay, fine. Fine. This could be salvaged, guys. This could be salvaged. Now, I'm not typically an enemies to lovers type of person, but okay, forced marriage, marriage of convenience, enemies to lovers. I could get into it. I could find a way. If the story just keeps fixing its path just a little bit. I saw a little bit of hope, but no. I admittedly complained to my husband one too many times about this book driving me up the wall. And I know I said I could refuse to finish books, but I'm trying really hard not to do that. I think it's better if I could rage a little at the torture. I usually finish books in a day, okay? This did not take a day. Maybe a week if it's a really big book and I'm really busy. This also did not take a week. It's horrible. Somebody explained to me how in the first few chapters, Liam went from hating her to being affected by her presence so quickly. It seemed so sudden. It was off-putting. There wasn't even anything done for him to have this reaction to her. It's just like it was thrown in there. Automatically, he went from hating her to her ruining his wedding, and him hating her more to I have this reaction to her, and I'm going to force her to marry me. Hey, it was off-putting. But I haven't read that many enemies to lovers, so maybe that's how that goes, guys. Please tell me that's not how that goes, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of those in here. I have to say, one thing that annoyed me is that he threatened her and forced her into this marriage and tried to give her the pros of marrying him, making this marriage seem mutually beneficial. And when she agrees, he gets sulky because, well, people only ever want him for what he can offer. Well, dude, I mean, you did threaten her. You guys do hate each other. You brought that to the table. You can't be mad when people take you up on your offer. Anyway, I would like to also point out that I don't understand how he was considered morally gray. I really don't. I mean, maybe, but the few books I have read prior to my book bowl, that the books are in here too for me to reread and get a different perspective as one reviewing it. But he didn't give me the same vibes as past characters have given me. To me, he has a legitimate business. He's wealthy. He worked hard to make his business successful. It was a business he inherited from his father. I'm not getting morally gray from that. Is he considered morally gray because he's an asshole? Again, I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it in my soul. I'm also annoyed that Isla never considered Lila's feelings. This girl was supposedly your friend, and while she did ask you for your opinion, you did kind of ruin the wedding, and then the next day just, oh yeah, I guess I'll just marry your fiance. I hate the guy, but la-di-da. Now, I know she resisted the proposal. She resisted the idea of marrying this man. And she did briefly mention Lila being her friend, but it still seems messed up that all concerns and considerations for Lila go out the window the second he's like, I can open doors for you because you'd be married to me. Like, my name would be attached to you. Now I know some of you bright-eyed, bushy-tailed readers will tell me in your hope that I'm just being picky, that, she did ask if she shouldn't get married to him, which meant she had doubts, which meant maybe it was better this way. But it still feels icky. How would you feel if your friend said, hey, don't marry this man, and the next day you find out that they're going to marry this man? The first thing I would be is suspicious. Did you sabotage my wedding so you could marry the man? My next complaint about this book, and there's a lot, and I tried not to talk about every little grievance I had, but there's a lot. This one happens a lot. But the first time it occurred was during the part where Liam was at Club 7A with his friends. It seems like there's so many different topics being thrown back and forth between all these characters, so many different conversations that are just being jumbled together that I can't pick apart who's talking about what anymore. Sometimes it wasn't even properly clarified who was speaking. I mean, it was very confusing. It was very frustrating. I got a migraine, and unfortunately that's not the only time that happens. So I was getting a little frustrated. I read that passage twice, and I'm still not fully convinced I understand what was being talked about. And then there's the scene where Liam has to meet Isla's family so that she can convince them that they're getting married out of love, because it has to be kept a secret that they don't love each other. I mean, if I found out that the biggest wedding of the year has a whole different bride, I would assume that they don't love each other. But whatever. A little fishy if you ask me. But when he gets to her family home, there's this massive dog named Tiny. He's my favorite character of the book. He's a dog with a drinking problem. Doesn't make any sense, but I love the dog. So I'll grasp onto anything that I could enjoy from this book. What I don't get is that Liam walks in and magically pulls out of his pocket dog treats. Like, my guy, are you a wizard? Why did you randomly have dog treats in your pocket? I just feel like by this point in the book, and it's still pretty early in the book, there's so much back and forth. There's so much chaos, so much jumbled BS that I don't like it. The characters, 1 minute they're into each other, 1 minute they're not, 1 minute one is and the other isn't, then they flip-flop. It's too much. It's so overdone. They kiss and then they pull away. He seems to fall first and very quickly, or at least maybe he doesn't fall first, but he acknowledges it and accepts it a lot quicker than she does. Isla, on the other hand, is stupid. Incredibly stupid. You'd think that I was reading about people in high school. That's the vibe I get. She's all over the place. She hates him. She yells at him. She wants him. She hates him. She's afraid she's not good for him. She's blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do the blah, blah, blah. It's not the best for a review, but I could not stand it. There's like a point where he forces her on this honeymoon and she's all mad about it. And then he takes her to a club because that's where she wants to go. And then she gets all seductive and does some very nasty things to him on a boat. And you'd think that would be great. We're finally into some action here, but it was so thrown in that it wasn't enjoyable. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's awkward. Continue. I feel like that scene was just like dropped in just to say, okay, let's start adding some spice into the story. And then randomly, Liam throws in that he had this big trauma that he dealt with. It wasn't alluded to like Isla's issues are with the vitamins, how it was kind of trickled in there, and her brother and friends telling Liam not to hurt her, and she's been through a lot and everything. Liam's just kind of smacked you in the face, came out of nowhere. If it was alluded to, I missed it in my hatred, but I really don't think it was alluded to. I was trying really hard to keep up with whatever was being said, so I didn't see it. He kind of just like randomly admits it, that he dealt with something, and then it's not talked about, and then he randomly admits it to Isla again and just talks about what happened to him. And for this woman that he hated like 5 minutes ago, and then he had this visceral reaction to her, but they're always so back and forth. Why her? Why is she the first person that you confided in about what you went through? Not your best friends, not your family. And I will admit it was a very traumatic thing that he went through, and I'm not going to mention it just because I don't think it's important for me to talk about in this review. And like, I kind of feel bad for knowing how the character plays out throughout the book, but because of the way the author wrote all of this in, I didn't get that emotional response to reading it. The characters don't have enough depth for me to get into reading it and seeing that and having it pull at my heartstrings. It just wasn't there. And I'm an emotional reader, okay? I'm an emotional reader. I cry a lot. I did not cry. Actually, I did cry when I realized there was another page and another and another. I definitely felt for him more than I did for Isla, though. I will admit that. But I just wasn't like crying or touched by it. And somehow, because of the trauma and the way he survived the trauma, that makes him morally gray. I don't think so. Having this be the first time he was considered morally gray after telling that story really turned me off to that description. Really made me hate the book more because that's really dumb. I haven't read a lot of smut, but what I have read, I know maybe not a lot, but enough to say that he is not a morally gray, not a morally black person. He's maybe like morally ivory. I wouldn't say he's like paper white, but maybe a cream. Gray though? Nah. I won't give out the full details because some of you may want to actually read this book. And I can't just give everything away. Gotta give you guys something to look forward to. There is a big spoiler I will give away though. I don't think it's actually that big, but technically I think the author wanted it to be that big, but only because it pissed me off so much. I feel the need to, and it is part of why I definitely didn't like this book, so I feel like it's necessary. Regardless, after Liam admits to Isla everything he went through, she feels like she should mention this big secret that her brother and her friends have all alluded to, and it made it sound very serious. Oh, my mom doesn't even know about it. Nobody knows about it. All this BS really made it seem bad. The way that she described it, the way the character in her head, her thought process, made it seem like it was even worse than what Liam had mentioned. But that will be touched on a bit more later, because, like me, you will have to wait until the very end of the book to find out what the hell was she so afraid to talk about. I'd like to talk about their wedding next instead. Anybody want to explain to me why they kissed with their eyes open? Why? Ever heard the song Grenade by Bruno Mars? You don't kiss with your eyes open. You're supposed to convince each other you love each other. I can't picture kissing my husband and just eyes open. I can't picture it. I really can't. I tried. I actually tried to do it with him, and I couldn't take it seriously. I laughed. If my husband and I do that, we're messing around. We're not at our wedding or having this beautiful intimate moment where I'm just like, let me just stare into your soul. No. There's another scene in the book where the author has Liam and Isla in the main study / library, and I believe it was in Isla's point of view at this point, and she's listing off so many books in the room. What are you trying to do, Steele? You trying to just make it very well known that you know all these cool books? I don't care. Maybe I would have cared if I liked the book, but I don't. And it aggravated me. Like, it just felt like it was just things to be placed into the book, just like everything else in this godforsaken story. I can't speak for every book, and like I said, maybe it wouldn't have bothered me if I liked the book, but since I don't like the book, fuck this book. I'm gonna criticize everything, down to the breath that this girl takes. What I'm struggling to understand is that Isla had signed this contract to be in this marriage of convenience, and she knew the rules, she knew the biggest points of this contract. How did she think she was going to get out of it just because, well, I want to get out of it? That doesn't work that way. She thinks that because she's going to deny loving him after he's admitted to loving her, that means she can get out of the contract. Technically, hate to break it to you, it was never about love. It's not how life works. It really isn't. Granted, I guess it's not every day that you have a morally gray billionaire offering to marry you. Anyway, at one point in the book, Liam is talking to his friends, and now he never mentioned his trauma all these years, and then he mentions it to this stranger that he's supposed to marry, and then randomly, while he's with Hunter and Declan, they're talking about his feelings for Isla, and he's like, oh wait, I had this trauma, and he dumps it on them. And then they go right back to talking about Isla. It was just very like, here it is, let's continue, I'm done with talking about it. No, what? It just seemed like he was carrying the secret for so long, and to just randomly blurt it out, for it just to be swept up under the rug like that, this felt weird. I'm not saying it had to be some huge scene, huge emotional event. I mean, I guess that's not necessary. They are talking about these guys that don't really like to talk about emotions, so I can understand that, but it just felt they made it too insignificant, which it just did him dirty in my opinion. If it wasn't meant to be this huge deal, it shouldn't have been brought up in the first place. This shouldn't have been this major point in this character's life. It shouldn't have been a thing. Now, in my opinion, the way it seems, and I wasn't in the author's brain. I'm not in the author's mind to know what was going through her head, but it just felt like she threw this trauma into the middle of the book just to give Liam some depth, let it go, and then randomly threw it in again to give the whole trauma bit some closure. It just seemed thoughtless. It seemed very last minute, kind of just thrown in there. It wasn't well executed, in my opinion. That's not the only thing that's not very well executed in this book, guys. If you haven't been able to tell already, none of this was well executed, in my opinion. It was at this point that I was questioning how I was going to get through the rest of the series. And it was also at this point that I realized I think I have another one of her series in here, which I may add is a little bit of annoyance. There is a pre-series to this series that is, I don't think is in my book bowl. And it would have been nice for that to be like mentioned. When I was putting in all the series, it could have said like, this is like the second part of a series. It would be better if you started with this, because then I could have written all the series down. In a way, I'm glad, because I don't think I would have been able to read every single one of the series, because that's like, I don't know, 30 or 40 books. Dear God. But still, like, for viewers who really like the book, there's a lot of characters that are brought up that they have these relationships. You really don't know anything about them, but it seems like there's a story to be told. And there was. She told it in a different series. So, should have executed that better too. Steele. I was crying on the inside and outside, wondering how I'm going to finish this series. I have no connection with any of the characters in this book whatsoever, except the dog, because I too wanted a drink while reading this. I also can't respect a scene in the book where Isla can see how inebriated Liam is. I mean, he can barely walk, he's stumbling, he's so drunk out of his mind. He can't even make his body function properly. He's trying to open a bottle of whiskey, and what does she do? She opens it for him, gives it to him. Bro, he is not there. Let's not unalive the man, okay? Like, let's just leave him to sober up. Clearly, she's never heard of alcohol poisoning. I mean, I guess if Tiny the dog can handle it, then she doesn't really care if he can handle it or not. And then minutes later, she's naked, and he's somehow stone cold sober. That's not how alcohol works. It's not. Now, Isla mentions 50 Shades of Grey. That series is a good series. I've read it when I was in college. It wasn't my first book with spice in it, but I think it was my first series that was spicy. And I know there was like that whole thing where people were laughing, like, oh, I'm reading it for the plot. There really are good plots to those stories. And I think it wasn't a terrible plot. I actually quite liked it. Now, I don't remember all of it. I do have it in my list. Maybe reading it again as I'm older, I might have different thoughts about it. But it was a pretty good series. It's like a gateway smut. From what I can remember, the spice was really good in those books. However, compared to the smut I've read recently, it's not even a contender. Smut has evolved. It makes 50 Shades of Grey seem like a bedtime story. Well, I guess they're all bedtime stories. I need to go. I'm rambling. But despite it not being as steamy as the books nowadays, still really good. Great plot, great steam. But this author had the audacity to write a lackluster spice scene. Isla, well, the author, but Isla, has the gall to say that her spice with Liam was so amazing and so steamy that no scene in a book she's ever read compared to how explicit and dirty the stuff they did together was. 50 Shades was dirtier. How dare you try to insult 50 Shades of Grey like that? Go sit down and humble yourselves. It was not that steamy. This was nothing to scream about. Pun intended. It felt like the author was trying to mention 50 Shades of Grey to name drop like the steamy book, which is not even that steamy compared to other books, and then commend herself for being even better than that? No, I don't like. I know I'm raging, I know I'm venting, I know I'm babbling and maybe repeating a lot of stuff, but this is just what was going through my mind while reading. I have a whole note on my notes app of just this book and like this series and all the things that bothered me about it, and I tried to find things I liked, but just no. I honestly was hate reading this book. Hate reading. I don't think I've ever hate read a book before. And I'm going to be hate reading the entire series. Unless it somehow gets better. Please let it somehow get better. Once again, Liam kisses her deeply with his fucking eyes open. Close your damn eyes. It's unnerving. Like, I don't think I could enjoy a kiss while somebody's staring into my soul. My eyes crossed. No. I don't hate Liam. I don't particularly like Liam, but I don't hate him. I don't like that he felt the need to say that it was a necessary evil to rejoin humanity. My kind sir, You are part of humanity. And he said that it was necessary evil in order to get Isla to come back to him and love him. How is basic human decency and kindness a necessary evil? Someone please explain to me. He didn't come across as a rich man who sometimes didn't realize he's as privileged as he is. This just came across as a snobby rich guy who saw others as less than. Also, she left him. Do contracts mean nothing? She loves him, but she's going back and forth because of something that she's hiding from him. And at this point, that secret, that big thing that's being dangled in front of me like a freaking carrot, I don't care. I really don't care what she went through. I don't. The way it's hinted at and how long it's being stretched to the book, I'm still thinking that it's something horrible, something dark, something worse than what Liam went through, since they just brushed that shit under the rug. Stick with me, guys. Seriously. We'll get there soon. Randomly, without any proof, Liam is morally gray because he tracks Isla, because he has to make sure that his loved ones are safe because of the trauma he went through. Okay, it's a quirk of his. It's a thing he needs to do. And that makes him gray. I track my best friend. My husband, my mom, and I, we all track each other. It's a safety thing. Actually, my friend and I are just really nosy with each other. But as far as my mom and my husband, it's a safety thing. Does that make us morally great? I guess maybe because she didn't know that she was being tracked, but like, come on. And then her friend randomly states that he's rich and owns a super successful company, which means he can't be anything other than morally gray. That he couldn't have succeeded through legitimate means. Is that what that's trying to tell me? That every rich person has to be illegally successful? I wouldn't say that every rich man is morally gray and succeeded through illegitimate means. And that's the vibe I was getting from this book. That all rich people are bad. All rich people are morally gray. Great. It's just great. What also agitates me is Isla's friend Zara has a similar situation with a guy where they have a love-hate relationship, and Isla has the audacity to give advice because, I guess she can do that when she can't even figure out her own mind. Last time you told somebody what they think, they left their wedding. No. Shut your mouth. Isla runs out and needs space, and everyone is acting like this is totally normal to need space right after being married. These people believe that they're in love, okay? And they're just like, oh yeah, her whole life is changing. She gave up a lot, so she needs space. I'm sorry, whatever happened to the honeymoon phase? I don't recall me and my husband needing space after we got married or moved in together or had kids together. Some big change, I didn't feel the need to have space afterwards. I guess it's not something that exists in this universe, but it's mentioned that the women take the brunt of big changes in marriages. I don't necessarily agree with that, but maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's a thought process that's to be had there that I'm just not seeing. Now, I know Liam and Isla didn't know each other very well before they got married. They didn't even like each other that much, but all the women in the book acted like this was normal. Like, women just take the brunt of this big change and they just need space after it happens. And I just don't see how. Guys, her big issue is finally revealed. Now let's think back into the book here. She was terrified that Liam and the world would find out and think that she was worthless, that she wasn't good enough for him, that he could do better, and that the world would turn on her when they found out. She felt like she couldn't look in a mirror. She couldn't even tell her family or most of her friends what she was dealing with. Her friends and her brother told Liam not to hurt her because she's been through enough. Just these little tidbits being thrown out here, there, and the way that she handles the situations made me think something horrible happened. I never would have expected that the big deal, the big secret that was so hard to tell and worse than what Liam went through was that she has alopecia. I screamed at my Kindle. The way it was just built up and then led to felt kind of dirty. I know that the world is cruel and full of heartless people and it makes people self-conscious and everything, but it all to me comes back to the way it was alluded to throughout the story. That's what I don't like. The build up to it made the reveal so disgusting, so rude, so insensitive, just overall stupid. This man admitted to something absolutely horrible happening, and she put that compared to her medical issue on the same playing field, which made you think that it was something else. And she put her issue above that. She pushed him away because of that. I'm not trying to make alopecia seem like it's nothing. I don't understand enough of it to make any comments about it per se, to see if anything she was saying was fairly accurate. But had the book been done better, executed better, I would have felt for her and found her developments and struggles to be empowering. But it was just kind of something she mentioned a lot, something she used as a crutch to run away from things and to feel unloved. It ruined that sincerity. It ruined any chance of having an emotional reaction to that other than anger. And then when she finds out he knew about it, her biggest fear was him finding out and not wanting her, or the world not thinking she was good enough. But then she finds out he did know the entire time. And then she gets mad at him for not telling her that he knew, even though she knows he'd had her looked into. Medical records, man. That's another reason I didn't think it was anything medical, because if somebody does research and has your background checked, they're going to see your medical records. I read too many books. Regardless, that would be the first thing I would think of. Oh my gosh, he probably knows. Which made me think that maybe there really was some big trauma that she just never talked about because she wasn't telling people. No. So poorly executed. He fell for her, the real her, and she felt betrayed because he didn't tell her that he knew what she was hiding. It just seems like she was looking for any excuse to break things off with him and to push him away and say that it's because of her alopecia and that she wouldn't be wanted. He looks devastated when she rejects him, and she blames that on her alopecia as well. No, honey, you pushed him away. He didn't turn away from you. He didn't find you disgusting like you thought he would. You pushed him away. Overall, I just hate Isla because she acts like a teenager. She even insults Liam like a high school girl. She can't seem to make up her mind and is always looking for a reason to be angry at Liam. She just kind of wanted to find a reason to say this relationship won't work. No characters had any depth, in my opinion. I didn't connect with any of them. Maybe Liam I had a little bit more of a connection with at the end. And there were some cases where I was like, man, I feel bad for him. But overall, nothing really. But Isla, 10 out of 10, the worst for me. She is my least favorite character. My favorite character, as I've mentioned, Tiny, the dog. I had planned in my reviews to add in favorite quotes of the book, but I was so angry that I didn't even find one, nor did I care to go back and look for something that I could relate to, because I didn't relate to this book at all. So, overall, I hate this book. And by the end of this book, I was honestly seething. I don't look forward to reading the rest of the series, but I'm going to try my best to hate read the rest of them in a timely manner. Read it if you want. I'm not giving this review to necessarily deter you from reading it or to tell you not to read it. That would be mean. I don't hate this author. I just don't think it was well executed. In my personal opinion, I don't think it's worth the read. You may love the book and the style. I just personally wanted to give you an honest review about it. I want to try and be as honest and critical as I can when I read these books. And in a way, I'm glad that my first series I picked out wasn't one I liked. I don't want it to seem like every book I'm going to read I love, because clearly that's not going to happen. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I know there will be a lot of books I absolutely love and others that I absolutely hate, but I am sure that whether I love or hate it, I will find both good and bad in every book. Unfortunately, this one's only good thing was the dog. I will try to point that out as best as possible in the future reviews when I read everything. I tried again for this one too. It was just a lot harder. This is not something I liked at all. But yeah, overall, that's my review. Read it, don't read it. I wouldn't, but again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what I thought of it. So thank you for sitting through this rage with me, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will not be embroidering this on my sweater. It's not worth going on my sweater. But yeah, on to the next book. Oh, before I forget, I have read the second book of the series, and I have read The Boyfriend. I will make my reviews, but I am going to pull out a paper now because I need to put books between every book in the series to not lose my mind. So I got the Sinners and Angels series by Luna Pierce. I accidentally pulled two papers out. I just grabbed the first one that was on top. So I will read this in between the other books. I will review them, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye.